the young man Etzebeth had a story earlier on pre-season saying there were not enough weights in the Western Province gym. They had to go out and get a 75 kilograms dumbbell so they could just...
They called him a brute, a talentless thug, said he was all brawn, no brain, the kind of player who would be red-carded every other game. But what if I told you that same man, that same so-called thug, is now the most capped Springbok in history, a two-time World Cup champion, and arguably the most feared enforcer rugby has ever seen. And here's the twist. For all the talk of aggression, for all the power, he has never received a red card in over 100 tests for his country. This is more than a story about rugby. It's a story about a young man from a blue-collar background who defied every label and expectation to become a legend. October 29th, 1991, a baby was born. Sounds like a bedtime story, brew, who would grow up to dominate rugby fields across the world. Eben Etzebeth wasn't born into rugby royalty. He was born into something far more primal, a family of warriors. Welcome to Rugby Chopper. Today, we're looking at the incredible journey of Eben Etzebeth, from a misunderstood teenager in Pero to one of the most respected Springboks in history. His late father, Harry, was a champion wrestler, and locals would say, "You didn't mess with that family. They were all giants, and they never backed down from a fight." As Eben himself would later say, that mentality was simply in the blood. Growing up in Pero, toughness wasn't just admired, it was currency. While other kids played video games, young Eben was learning that the world was divided into two types of people: those who stood their ground and those who got steamrolled. Despite his lineage of wrestlers and brawlers, young Eben was about to commit what his family considered the ultimate sin. Instead of bulldozing his way in the forwards, he was running around in the backline at school Tigerberg. Then, between grades 10 and 11, something almost supernatural occurred. Eben's body underwent a colossal growth spurt, so dramatic that his own teammates barely recognized him. One day, he was a regular backline player. The next, he was a giant who could barely fit through doorways. His high school coach finally did the obvious and moved him to the forward pack for his final year. But those years in the backline weren't wasted. They gave him something no traditional lock had: the mobility and awareness of a back, combined with the devastating power of a giant. By 2009, Western Province had spotted this extraordinary talent, and the Craven Week tournament became his coming out party. The real transformation, however, came when he joined the Western Province Rugby Institute. In the same class were future Springbok legends Siya Kolisi, Franz Malherbe, and Nizam Kar. Western Province had unknowingly assembled a golden generation. Even as his potential became undeniable, Eben's journey hit its first major roadblock. In 2011, while his future Springbok teammates were making headlines, Eben was grinding it out with the UCT Ike Tigers in the Varsity Cup. The Tigers won the championship that year, and Eben played his part. But success came with a price. If you're enjoying this story, please like and subscribe to Rugby Chopper so you never miss another rugby story or insight. Just as professional opportunities beckoned, an injury in the second half of the season threatened to derail everything. It was the beginning of a lifelong battle against his own body. But Eben's mindset never wavered. Setbacks didn't break him, they forged him. He used his rehabilitation as fuel, returning stronger, angrier, and more determined than ever. The call-up to the Western Province Currie Cup squad came in 2011, but 2012 would change everything. The Stormers named him in their Super Rugby squad. After just 13 games in his debut season, the Springbok selectors were watching. They saw a player who combined the mobility of his backline days with the raw power of his wrestling heritage. He was a genetic anomaly. Then just a year after playing university rugby, the call came that would change his life forever. June 9th, 2012. Kings Park Stadium, Durban. England versus South Africa. The Springboks won 22-17. What made Eben's rise so extraordinary was not just his debut, but how quickly he became indispensable. Within months, he was accumulating international caps faster than club appearances. He was a player so valued that the national team prioritized his development above all else. Former Springbok coach Heinik Meyer said, "From day one, Eben brought an intensity that was almost frightening. You could see opponents changing their game plan just because he was on the field." By the end of 2013, Eben was nominated for the IRB World Player of the Year award and named SA Young Player of the Year in 2012. The awards piled up, but more importantly, so did the fear factor. The so-called talentless thug had become rugby's most wanted man. Eben's career wasn't without heartbreak. The 2015 Rugby World Cup in England was his introduction to rugby immortality. He played in every pool match, including the historic 34-32 loss to Japan, a game that still haunts South African fans. Even in defeat, Eben's performance was a masterclass in resilience. On August 27, 2016, he earned his 50th cap at just 24 years old, becoming the youngest Springbok in history to reach this milestone. While most players his age were still finding their feet, Eben was rewriting international record books. Former Springbok Marcel Coetzee said, "Eben didn't just play rugby, he controlled it." Opponents would spend entire games trying to avoid him, and that created opportunities for the rest of us. In 2017, with Captain Warren Whiteley sidelined, the 25-year-old enforcer was named Springbok captain. Leadership wasn't just about tactics, it was about inspiring others to go beyond their limits. Teammate Sia Khaleesi said, "When Eben spoke, everyone listened. Not because he was the loudest, but because you knew he'd die for the jersey." Leadership came with a price. 2018 brought the harsh reality of rugby's physical toll, as significant injuries sidelined him for large parts of the season. Doctors say players like Eben face a unique challenge. Their playing style creates incredible impact forces, making them more susceptible to cumulative damage. While others might have modified their approach, Eben doubled down. Every comeback was an act of defiance. 2019 began with a move to RC Toulon in the French top 14. Then came the call for the Rugby World Cup in Japan, the chance for ultimate glory. Teammate Peter Steph Dutoit said, "Having Eben in the team was like having a nuclear weapon. Opponents knew he was there and it changed everything." On November 2nd, 2019, the Rugby World Cup final, the Springboks dismantled England 32-12. Eben wasn't just a destroyer, he was a winner. Lifting the Webb Ellis Cup, tears streamed down his face. The so-called thug from Pero had become a world champion. The journey didn't stop there. 2020 brought the COVID-19 pandemic, isolating him from family for 8 long months. Eben said, "Being away from family for so long made me realize what's truly important. Rugby is my profession, but family is my life." When the British and Irish Lions arrived in South Africa in 2021, Eben was ready. The Springboks won the series, and he was at the heart of every battle. Strength isn't just about what you can destroy, it's about what you choose to protect. Protecting his family became his highest priority. On July 16, 2022, at DHL Stadium in Cape Town against Wales, Eben earned his 100th cap. This milestone was personal. His father, Harry, battling illness, could finally witness history. The Springboks won 30-14, and Eben became only the 7th Springbok to reach 100 caps. Eben said this cap meant everything. Former Springbok captain Warren Whiteley said, "I've never seen anything like it." He was playing for something bigger than rugby that day. The 2023 Rugby World Cup in France cemented Eben's legacy. Through the knockout stages, every tackle, every carry, every leadership decision was dedicated to the man who taught him never to back down. Against New Zealand in the final, it was a one-point thriller. When the final whistle blew, Eben did not celebrate. He fell to his knees, looked to the sky, and spoke words only he and his father could hear. Eben Etzebeth's story reminds us that our greatest victories come not from defeating others, but from conquering the limitations placed on us by the world, and sometimes by ourselves. The so-called thug became a legend. The feared enforcer became a leader.